Hi everyone, today we're going to be working on the homework that is due on February 11. The first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and put our name. And let's go ahead and work on the first question. The first question says, Dominic drew a quadrilateral. Opposite sides of the figure were both parallel and congruent. The figure had 4 right angles. Which best describes the figure Dominic drew? So the first thing that I notice is that it says quadrilateral. I know that a quadrilateral is a shape that has 4 sides. So we're going to go over here and put 4 sides. Then it says the opposite sides of the figure were both parallel and congruent. So we know that everything is parallel and congruent. We also know that it has 4 right angles. So let's go ahead and look at the options. Can you guess which shape is the worst option out of the 4? If you said hexagon, you're correct. A hexagon is a shape that has 6 sides. So we know that a hexagon can definitely not be the answer. We are left with 3 other shapes. We have a trapezoid, but we're going to have to say that a trapezoid is not the answer because a trapezoid cannot have 4 right angles and definitely does not have all parallel sides. So the only thing that it could be is a square or rectangle. Here it says that both sides are congruent and parallel. So that means that the answer has to be a square. If you drew a square, you would see that it has 4 right angles, definitely 4 sides, and all the sides are congruent and parallel. Here you have 1 pair of parallel sides, and here you have another pair of parallel sides. So the answer is G for square. Let's go ahead and go to this one. This question says, Rachel's teacher asked her to draw 4 different models of the decimal number 1 and 5/10. Which model does not represent the decimal number 1 and 5/10? Here, I'm going to see that there is definitely one whole, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you do have tenths, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tenths. 1 and 5/10. So over here, you definitely have one whole, and then you have in this one 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they're tenths, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have one whole and 5 tenths. Over here, you have one whole, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're tenths, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So definitely 1 and 5 tenths. Now over here you have one whole, and over here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So these are not tenths, these are ninths. So we can't even write that as a decimal. It would have to be as a fraction. We have 5/9, not 5/10. So this is the answer because we were looking for not. Which one does not represent 1 and 5/10? Let's go ahead and go to the next one. Let's go ahead and do Luis. It says here, Luis asked 12 teachers at his school how many hours they slept last night. This box summarizes what he learned. 1 teacher slept 7 hours. 2 teachers slept 5.5 hours. 1 teacher slept 8 hours. 2 teachers slept 6.5 hours. 4 teachers slept 6 hours. And 2 teachers slept 7.5 hours. So we're going to go over here and we're going to try to see which of those options can best match the information that we had. So what I like to do with these diagrams, which they're called dot plots, I like to see how they're different. If I go to choice A, I'm going to compare it to choice B to see what's different between them. So here I have 5.5 has 2 dots, 6 has 2 dots, and over here 6 has 4 dots. So something is not right. So here it says 6 hours. So let's go over here to 6 hours. And for 6 hours, I see 4 teachers. So that means there should be 4 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means that B is definitely not the answer because we should have 4 dots. So this one is good with 6. This one is good. And this one is good. This one does not work. Now, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to compare choice A with choice C. I see that over here, 5 hours has no teachers. And here, 5 hours has 2 teachers. Let's say 5 hours. That's not 5 hours. That's not 5. 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 There's over here, there is no 5. So there should be no teachers for 5. So that means that this right here is wrong. So C is not the answer. So that means that now we're going to have to compare A and D. So for 5, there's nothing. So that's good. For 5.5, it has 2 for each one. So over here, 5.5 has 2 teachers. So that one is correct. For 6 hours, we said there was 4 teachers, so that's good. Everything here looks like it's the same. 2 dots for 6.5, 1 dot for 7. Here's where we have a difference. D says 2 teachers did 7.5 hours, and over here A says 7.5 was only 1 teacher. If you go to 7.5 hours, that is 2 teachers. So 7.5, this one does not have 2 teachers, it only has 1. So the answer has to be D, 7.5, 2 teachers. And let's double check the last one. It says 8 hours, only 1 teacher. If you go over here, 8 hours, only 1 teacher. That is correct. Everything else should be correct. D is the best answer. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. It says over here, the model below is shaded to represent a number greater than 1. So here you have 1, and then here you have your decimal or fraction. So we're looking at the best option here. Here I would say that I have 1. And over here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tenths. And that's how I will write it as a fraction. 1 and 8 tenths as a decimal. So over here, this one works. This one does not work because it doesn't look anything like this one. This right here actually says 1 and 800ths. So that's definitely not the answer. This one works. This one says 18. Not 1 and 8 tenths. So this is definitely not the answer. So we are stuck between F and G. I wonder which one would be the best answer. Can you think of which one would make the most sense? This one says we have 1 whole, and then you have 18 shaded out of 100. So I could cut this into 100 pieces, and I would get 18 shaded. Let's try to do that. I'm going to cut this into 100 pieces by simply doing this. So right here, I already cut this piece. It went from tenths, which was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tenths. And I turn it into hundredths by slicing it this way. So now I have hundredths because I have 100 of these little tiny boxes right here. If you count all the little tiny boxes over here, it's going to be 100 of them. But let's think about it. Do we have 18 out of 100? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Nope. We have way more than 18. We actually have 80. If you count every single dot over here, and you're going to count 80 of them. So that is not the answer. So that means that F is going to be the best answer. How can that be it? How can you have 18 tenths? Well, if you remember, this is 1 tenth. So we need to go back over here and get back our tenths. Let's count all the different tenths. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tenths, also known as 1 whole. And then you have 11 tenths, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 tenths. So that's how this right here is 18 tenths. The answer is F. Now let's go to the last question. Here it says Equivalent measures are shown in the table below. Here you have the number of cups and the number of quarts. 12 cups and then 3 quarts. Based on the information in the table, which statement is true? So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to label our table. Here we have our input, and here we have our output. And you're always going to ask yourself, how am I getting from my input to the output? Well, I noticed that the numbers are getting smaller, so I'm definitely going to have to subtract or divide. Let's try to do division. 12 divided by something is going to give me 3. Can you think of what that something can be? If you said 4, that is correct, because 3 times 4 gives you 12. So 20 divided by 4 is going to give you 5, because 5 times 4 is 20. So we know that the rule is to divide by 4. Remember, every time you're going from input to output, you're dividing by 4. If you wanted to go the other way around, from output to input, you would simply have to do the opposite. 3, instead of divided by 4, you would do times 4, and that would give you the input, in this case 12. So based on the information, we're looking for the correct pair of input and output. So if my input is 60, could the output be 14? Let's look at the first one. It says 60 divided by 4. If you do your division, you're going to see that the closest we can get to 6 is 4. We put our 1 up here. We subtract. We put down the 0. The closest that I can get to 20 is 20. I'm putting a 15 over here. So this right here says that if you had 60 cups, that would be 15 quarts. So not 14, so F is not the answer. Let's go to the next one, 66. And we're going to divide it by 4. The closest you can get to 6 is 4. You put a 1, you subtract it. The difference is 2. You bring down the 6. Now you have 26. The closest you can get to 26 is 24. You put a 6 over here, and you have a remainder of 2. So even though this does give you a quotient of 16, you have a remainder. And here it doesn't say remainder. So this is not the answer. Let's go to the next one, 70. 70 divided by 4. The closest you can get to 7 is 4. You put a 1 up here. You subtract it. The difference is 3. You bring down the 0. 30. The closest you can get to 30 is 28 by multiplying times 7. You still get a remainder of 2. So again, this quotient matches this number, but it's telling you have a remainder. So that's not going to be the answer. So let's check and test the last one. 72 divided by 4. The closest I can get to 7 is 4. I put a 1 up here. My difference is 3. I bring down the 2. The new number is 32. The closest I can get to 32 is 32 by multiplying times 8. And here I have no remainder. So the answer is 18. There is no remainder. And if I divide 72 divided by 4, that'll give me exactly 18. So the answer is J. These are the answers for this week's homework. If you have any questions, please let me know this week. Thank you.